CEO Adam Back, he's basically confirming what we believe here on the channel, that we're in the early stages of a bull market. Let's have a listen.
It's hard to predict the timing, but I think we're certainly in the early stages of a bull market at this point. Typically the bull market cycle lasts for a certain period after the halving, and so we're still in the early innings. I think there's very stiff inflows from ETFs buying about 2 times the Bitcoin mined per day, MicroStrategy and the other Bitcoin treasury companies buying another 2 times, and the retail buyers and dollar cost average investors. So really there's a lot of inflow. I think temporarily there's some consolidation because some earlier investors, sort of midterm investors, profit taking. But that overlay would set us up for a price where you start to see Bitcoin competing with gold, perhaps pulling money out of gold ETFs into Bitcoin ETFs. And then, of course, if the treasuries come in, like the sovereign treasuries, the Bitcoin reserves, that would be something where you'd see sovereign competition. As soon as one of the bigger countries jumps in, I think the others will feel forced to follow suit. So that would, all bets would be off if that happens. Now, of course, institutional adoption, I think the family offices are faster, more agile, but the institutions are in play. You can see that the ETF 13F filings, which shows you the institutions that have bought Bitcoin via the ETFs, is about 30% institutional. I think there's a lot more capital in the institutional space of pension funds and mutual funds, so there's a lot of room for capital to come in this cycle and into the next cycle.
And so the reason this news is so important surrounding Bitcoin is the fact that it is the mothership of the entire crypto market. In other words, if Bitcoin is doing well, then it provides room or air for others to do well in a bullish environment. That said, XRP is the next one up, and I believe that there is a flight to safer crypto assets now that we've seen many bubbles and many scammers take advantage of people in things like the Solana and DeFi ecosystems. So that said, I believe not only with a pro-Trump or pro-crypto Trump administration, we are going to see US-based companies that have been around for quite a while get regulatory clarity and then have spot ETFs. And already we are seeing a lot of ETFs enter the space. We saw Bitwise, we saw Canary, we saw 21 Shares, we saw Wisdom Tree, and a whole litany of other players like Grayscale. But here is where things are currently exciting. Right now, Brazil is set to launch the world's very first spot XRP ETF. And Brazil is actually a pretty big economy, especially when you're talking Latin America. But to make a long story short, a spot ETF in Brazil, although it will not create as much demand as one in the United States, will set the stage and prove that there is institutional demand not only in the largest market in the world, but in other emerging markets as well. And I would argue Brazil is obviously not an emerging market, but in terms of its economy, it will set a precedent and will also create more demand for the XRP token. So it's a win-win-win. I'm just shocked Brazil's the first one to do it. Now, folks, let's dive into what Trump recently shared at his latest conference in Miami just yesterday and what this will mean for crypto markets.
I've signed executive orders to keep the United States at the forefront of artificial intelligence and to end Joe Biden's war on Bitcoin and crypto. We ended that war totally. That war is over. They were very hostile toward them until the very end, just because there's so many people on Bitcoin and crypto that just before the end, the SEC came out and they were being very nice. I was so nice to people because so many people were being indicted for no reason whatsoever. Very political group of people. That's all they did was they liked indicting people, but they were being indicted, and many of those indictments were dropped just before the election because they said, wait a minute, there's 100 million, 125 million people using this, and they didn't want to have, all these people being voted against. But by the time they did that, it was too late. We had that vote entirely, I think. I think anybody smart that believed in that, and there are a lot of people believing it, anybody that was smart voted for Trump. And they pulled the indictments, and I see people that were indicted. I said, I saved your life. I saved your life. Because if they thought that, they actually thought that I was doing it. They say, why is Trump doing it? Is he doing it for political reasons? I don't do anything for political reasons. I do what's right. I want to be in the forefront of every industry. So,
in typical Trump fashion, he kind of points to himself as the savior of the industry, but truly a lot of these crypto cases are going to get dropped, and I wholeheartedly believe this SEC situation between Ripple and the SEC will end very soon, and when that happens, we can sure get excited because the floodgates will open to true institutional adoption from a financial standpoint. And so let's just take a quick look at the timeline of events with Ripple and Trump. On January 8th of 2025, Ripple met with President Trump. Then on January 21st, Ripple met with the Vice President Vance at their gala. And then Ripple met with leaders from various industries and members of Congress on February 14th. And today, President Trump shared a post about Ripple directly on Truth Social. As you can see here, he shared a CoinDesk article that features Brad Garlinghouse directly on the center. And this is truly showing up in markets as what they call the Trump effect, because US-based crypto companies, and more specifically Ripple, have really been performing well because we know now the SEC is no longer going to be hostile. Now, before we dive into that most recent Trump executive order that's going to shatter Washington, I do also want to cover a few things that are happening in the XRP DeFi space, because a lot of folks on this channel mostly just buy and hold XRP on centralized exchanges, or otherwise known as SEXs, and the XRP ecosystem has been slept on a lot. However, this is really bullish news for the XRP ledger, as someone recently raised, his name is Gao, for his company about $9 million by one of the best venture capital firms in all of crypto, A16Z, or Andreessen Horowitz. And the reason he did this is to build a product that is going to allow people like me and you to move assets and trade on chain things like SUI, Doge, and XRP directly, no matter where we're at, without having to bridge them or use centralized exchanges. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this has been a massive headache. In other words, let's just say I wanted to buy XRP, but I'm actually trading on the SUI blockchain or even on the Doge blockchain. The problem is I can't just send SUI and trade it for XRP, even if I have dollars or USDT. First, I typically have to send my SUI to an exchange, then buy XRP, and then send it to one of these DeFi exchanges. And so this creates a lot of headaches, and this is why crypto is so fragmented, he's saying. He's saying there's so many chains, so many assets. If you're trading on Base but want exposure to something like Solana, Doge, or XRP, you have to bridge, okay, or use a lot of these sketchy websites, and then find your way back to a centralized exchange. This creates unnecessary friction for users and severely limits assets that developers can use. And I'm in total agreement, which is why products like this are truly going to make trading crypto and XRP in DeFi a very cool thing to do from here on out. And then another recent DeFi development is Canary Capital, who already filed for an XRP spot ETF, is now launching an Axelar trust featuring the native token of the Axelar network. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, the Axelar protocol is a cross-chain protocol that has worked with Ripple and their RLUSD stablecoin for interoperability between all of these chains. So if anything, this is just going to create for an environment where there is deeper liquidity, more interoperability, and then with the development of this universal protocol, things are looking really good for the entire DeFi ecosystem of XRP and their ledger. And I just want to remind y'all that this is stuff that I did not have access to the first time I invested in XRP, the second bull run I invested in XRP, and now finally we're getting a truly robust DeFi ecosystem for XRP. And it's not just going to be institutions anymore. It's going to be people like me and you using DeFi products on the XRPL.